really exciting for me to be here. I want to thank Ms. Daniels for being a teacher. I want to thank Wynn for being a principal.
Good morning, America. I'm Charles Gibson.
I'm Diane Sawyer, and it's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
It is lunchtime in London, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and 8 a.m. here in New York, live from the CNN Financial News headquarters.
It is beautiful outside, perfect September day with lots of sunshine. Oh, would you look at Washington, huh? I'm going outside today.
Other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet.
Did we get on that? Really important.
And this morning we do have a lesson that we will read with you, read for you.
Good.
And it's lesson 60 of our...
In your rental car, it was like winning rental roulette.
These two letters say...
R.
Yes, R. Sound it out. Get ready.
R.
What word?
Part.
But now rental agencies are... Okay, it sounds like we have some breaking news to tell you about.
SRA reading program. Direct instruction.
I know very well where that came from.
Okay. Are you ready, my butterflies? Yes. LLP position, eyes on me. 1, 2, 3. Get ready to read all the words on this page without making a mistake. Read this word the fast way. Get ready.
Part.
Yes, part. What do these two letters say?
R.
Yes, R. Sound it out. Get ready.
R.
What word?
Part.
Yes, part. What?
Holy shit.
R. Yes, R. Sound it out. Get ready.
R.
What word?
Part.
Yes, part. What do these two letters say?
R.
Tell you about out of New York. We're going to show you there's a
fire
world...
burning in the World Trade Center right now. We're just hearing about that right now. Let's see if we can get a more
We're
on that
trying
from
to
our
get you
producer.
video. Of it.
Okay, this is apparently burning at the top of one of the World Trade Center towers, and obviously, as you can see from here, it's a very, very large one taking place on a couple of major...
Get ready.
The pet goat.
Yes, the pet goat. Fingers under the first word of the story. Get ready to read the story the fast way. Get ready.
A girl had a pet goat.
Go on.
Now, we've gotten a look at least 3 sides of tower number 1, and that is the only building
it's exploding right now, Tommy. We're seeing
another
apparently
plane. That was another plane.
Read her up from under your seat. Open your book up to lesson 60 on page 153.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
At the count of 3, everyone should be on page 153. If the yellow paper is going to bother you, drop it. Thank you. Everybody touch the title of your story. Fingers under the title. Get ready to read the title, The Fast Way. We're waiting for...
I get in contact with Marcelo.
Go to the Trade Center.
Yeah, I believe this is happening.
We have a very tragic alert for you right now. An incredible plane crash into the World Trade Center here at the lower tip of Manhattan.
It's believed a 737 has crashed into this speculation at this point, but at least 3 floors taken out, crashed into the side of the building. Joining us right now, one of the producers with Fox Report, Owen Mugen on the scene. Owen.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
La espera de mayores informaciones, saber qué fue lo que ocurrió, cómo fue que
Apparently, a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
現在私、貿易センタービルから1キロほど北にあります国連本部の
Go on. Go on. Try that again. Get ready.
It does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
Yes, and that's the second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway.
They are running away very, very quickly. There are more explosions further down the building.
This is so shocking, of course, to everybody watching.
I've never seen anything like it. It literally blew itself into World Trade Center.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
David, we're going to have to cut you off. President Bush is speaking.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
And the Pentagon is being...
Off of the World Trade Center, I'm looking right now at the World Trade Center. There's a massive gaping hole on the second tower. It's about 15 stories from the roof. It's just unbelievable to look at.
I seen that jet go right in.
You can just see it right now. You can see emergency vehicles tearing south on the West Side Highway, heading towards the scene. There are tons of people in the streets. There are papers, things fluttering out. I can't see any evidence of what it was that could have crashed. All I can see is just this massive, gaping hole with tons of black smoke falling out of the building.
All we can do is stare aghast at these pictures at this point. You are looking at the north building of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in Manhattan. These are coming to you live now. Debris raining down from 110 floors up. As you can see, this is a clear blue sky day in Manhattan. If this was an accident, it would be a needle in a haystack kind of accident. There was another one. We just saw another one. We just saw another one apparently go. Another plane just flew into the second tower. This has to be deliberate, folks. We just saw on live television as a second plane flew into the second tower of the World Trade Center. Now, given what has been going on around the world, some of the key suspects come to mind. Osama bin Laden. Who knows what? Eric Shawn is with us. Eric, I know you have a lot of sources at the FBI and other agencies like that. What can you tell us?
Well, first, I apologize for being out of breath because I was walking down Fifth Avenue, which is close to our studios, and I heard a jet, perhaps a 737 or a small Airbus, flying low, unusually low over Fifth Avenue, making a right. I'm not going to say, I don't know, I don't have any reports on what type of plane hit the World Trade Center, but people looked up and it made a right toward the building.
Nice and orderly, nice and orderly.
It is a tragedy. It is abhorrent. It is disgusting. But
I'm wondering, are these pilots terrorists themselves? Are there terrorists in the cockpit who are holding guns to a pilot's head? Did they?
I can't imagine.
You can speculate completely about how this happens, because obviously it takes a lot of training and expertise to fly a complicated, sophisticated aircraft, whether it's a Boeing 737 or a smaller Airbus. These are not little Cessnas and little Pipers. So you have to wonder and raise what possibility there is with the type of scenario that was going on in the cockpit.
Our Wendell Goler is at the White House, make that Sarasota. He is traveling with the president. Wendell Goler, what's the reaction from the president?
John, the president is here promoting a reading initiative on the second day of a two-day trip to Florida. He just finished reading to some children at the Emma Booker Elementary School and was asked about the incident. He said he was aware of it and that he would have something to say about it later.
Let's bring in David Lee Miller, our correspondent. He has an eyewitness with him. David Lee, what can you tell us?
Good morning, John. I'm a few blocks from the World Trade Center right now. As you would expect, all the roadways are pretty much cut off. The only way to get near the buildings is on foot right now. The scene is absolutely a horrific one. You have people streaming out of the area. You've got people literally in tears and shock. People that just work in the nearby buildings that cannot believe what has happened. Still, many of them remember the terrorist attack years ago on the World Trade Center, and many of them, this is just an ugly reminder of that, although the details of what happened here are not certain. As I was walking downtown in Lower Manhattan, making my way to the World Trade Centers, I stopped to speak to Sylvia Fuentes. She's with me right now. We're a few blocks away from the building. She works in Lower Manhattan. She used to work in the Trade Center, and I'm going to actually hand her the telephone right now, and she's going to describe for us what she saw this morning as she was arriving at work. Sylvia?
I heard a loud rumbling, and when I walked out of the deli onto Fulton Street, I looked up in the air. There was an airplane actually going into the World Trade Center, and flames were coming out, and smoke was just billowing in the air, and tons of people were running down Fulton Street, just running each other over, and I made my way back to my office on Water Street, and when I got upstairs, I looked out my window to see what was going on, and the Second World Trade Center just went into flames, just from 1 minute to the next.
Sylvia, thanks for that eyewitness report. When we saw that second plane slam into the second tower intentionally, quite clearly, you got to believe this is a terrorist attack. Harvey Kushner is on the line with us. He's a frequent guest of ours and a terrorism expert. Harvey, is it too early to speculate about suspects?
One thinks only that this could be the most horrifically planned incident, in the annals of terrorism against the United States. Think about it. I mean, you look outside the Fox studios, look how clear it is. I mean, how could you miss the trade towers? I mean, not just one, but two planes?
Well, and it brings to mind, everybody hates those metal detectors at airports, and everybody makes passing through them almost a joke these days. But clearly, it seems that something is going to change if you can make this kind of a statement and kill as many people as are likely to be dead in this kind of scenario.
Yeah, John, we're talking about terrorism. No matter how this turns out, this is going to be a day that's going to live in infamy. And, it's going to cause changes in terms of, if it turns out, the terrorism in terms of security like this country has never seen before.
President Bush is about to speak. He's in Florida. That was what was supposed to be a joyous event at an elementary school. Let's listen in.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
We are going to be looking at an enormous death toll. 50,000 people work in those two buildings.
Sergeant Churchill on you.
John Fund from the Wall Street Journal is on the phone with us. John, were you in the area when the planes hit?
I was across the street in my office building.
What did you see? What did you hear?
I heard an incredible sonic boom and looked up, and there were already much smoke and flames pouring out of the building. And about 15 minutes later, of course, a second sonic boom, which of course would have been the second tower and the second plane.
What about injuries, John?
Well,
can you tell us?
The most terrible and heart-rending thing about this is about 15 minutes ago, bodies started dropping from the top floors of the tower closest to the highway, about at least 5 or 6, and it was absolutely terrible. Obviously, they had two choices: to be burned in flames or to leap and end it all. It was quite tragic.
Let me bring into the conversation David Asman, my colleague.
Yes, John Scott,
David, what can you tell us?
I just want to give you some late-breaking information. Perhaps one of the things that is of greatest fear is that there is yet another terrorist attack since those two plane crashes happened within 20 minutes of each other. Well, all of Manhattan has been sealed off. This is probably unprecedented. Of course, all of this is unprecedented in this dastardly occasion. But Manhattan has been sealed off. The Hudson River bridges and the tunnels have been sealed. Clearly, there is an attempt right now to thwart any further act of terrorism, act of violence against the people of Manhattan. So Manhattan is in a lockdown. We are hearing right now of another explosion that has taken place at the Pentagon. We have the heart of the financial district of America being attacked. Now we understand that there is an explosion. There has been an explosion in the Pentagon, the heart of the military command center of the United States of America, John. It can't get much worse than this, let's hope.
You gotta believe that it has happened again. Another large airliner, perhaps hijacked, perhaps part of some widespread plan, apparently slamming into at least the area around the Pentagon. They have not struck at America. They have struck at some individual places in America, but this country will go on. I want to go to our Washington managing editor, Britt Hume, who has the outlook from the nation's capital. Britt, this raises all kinds of questions about America's response, and I guess that a response is not going to be immediate, is it?
Well, whether it is immediate or not, the one thing I think we are seeing, John, is this series of evacuations from various buildings around Washington. And I think it's important to say that we don't know and have no reason to believe that the White House, for example, was facing any immediate or imminent threat. The same is true on Capitol Hill, where it appears they will be evacuating the building up here soon. Nothing has happened at either of those places. This, of course, though, John, I think this is one of these days where we can say that things will not again be the same in the United States of America. This is the kind of terrorist attack that is the nightmare that experts and others have warned about, but some of us may have thought really could not happen on such a scale. This is quite remarkable.
As we watch these pictures, the World Trade Center, 110 stories, literally starting to fall.
It's gone! The whole tower! It's gone! Holy crap! They knocked the whole freaking thing down!
I hope I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me. Here it comes. I'm getting behind a car. I had to go find people who need help, because I don't think I'm one of them. You okay, sir? Okay. Can I just get a toot off your respirator?
We was inside the building.
You were inside the World Trade Center?
Inside the building.
Doing what?
Getting ready to go upstairs to search, and the floor gave way. The whole building collapsed on us.
How did you guys get out?
Just found our way out, struggled our way through.
Walk towards the light.
Walk towards the light.
We walk towards the light. That's all we do.
Hello?
Yeah, David Lee, what can you tell us?
John, the scene is horrific. One of the two towers literally collapsed. I was making my way to the foot of the World Trade Center. Suddenly, while talking to an officer who was questioning me about my press credentials, we heard a very loud blast, an explosion. We looked up, and the building literally began to collapse before us. There was debris falling, I'd say at least 3/4 the height of the building. People within the entire perimeter began literally, including myself, which is why I'm out of breath, to run for our lives.
Those steel girders, strong as they are, had a lot of weight to support, and apparently, I'm not a structural engineer, but I'm just guessing now that they gave way. The loss of life here is going to be enormous.
May God help those who are there, and the victims and their families, and all the souls that are lost today.
Can you tell me what you saw, what you heard?
So
You all right?
All right.
Look at this guy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This poor woman. Wow.
United 93, Cleveland, do you still hear the center? United 93, do you still hear Cleveland? United 93, United 903, do you hear Cleveland?
80 miles southwest of Pittsburgh, this United Airlines Flight 93 crashed.
From the size of the impact crater, it would appear as though the angle of descent or angle of attack had to be nearly straight in.
I think the pilot downed the plane in a remote area because, there wasn't very many houses over there where it went down. And I don't know, it's really, the whole thing is just unbelievable.
This is clearly a national catastrophe. There will be some response from the White House. Let's go to Wendell Goler, who was traveling with the president in Sarasota, Florida, and find out what the latest is there. Wendell?
John, the president left Sarasota, Florida. Air Force One took off just a short while ago to convene a meeting of his national security advisors, including the vice president, the heads of the CIA, the National Security Agency, and the FBI, and also New York Governor Pataki. After the two attacks on the Twin Towers in New York, he was briefed by his national security advisor, Condoleezza Rice, who phoned him after the first attack. Mr. Bush was actually reading to some children when the second attack occurred. Chief of Staff Andy Card interrupted him, told him about the attack. It was clear at that point we were dealing with terrorists.
I want to bring into the conversation General Al Haig, the former Secretary of State. General Haig, at a time like this, how does America respond prudently, with the proper amount of caution, and yet with whatever force needs to be applied?
Well, first we have to know the full limits of this tragedy, and it's unprecedented, of course. But we have to stay above all united and calm and ready to take resolute action, which sometimes we have failed to do in the recent past, when the perpetrators are uncovered, and we have many, many indicators of precisely who they are. This was too broadly based a terrorist act to be just a few crazies. This is a terrorist movement, and we know where they're located today. And obviously, as a nation, we're going to have to take action against them.
Oh, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes. Oh.
When it comes down, we're
all right. We do need to put it down now. I think we need to put it down now. Here we go.
America, offer a prayer.
this is going on. You're actually looking at the situation there live right now, and the smoke. Okay, we are now getting word a plane, a jet, has run into the World Trade Center. This is just coming into us right now, a breaking story in the headline news. A plane has hit the World Trade Center, a jet, and as you can see, the upper floors of one of the towers are fully engulfed, and we've got smoke involved all over the place. There's a closer look at it.
We have eyewitnesses that say it could have been a 737, and now that we get a close-up of it, you can see actually where the plane has collided with the building. We'll be bringing you more on that. We're going to take a break now and bring you more right after the break.
Is ServiceMaster.
We are continuing to follow a breaking story. If you're just joining us this morning, we have word that an airplane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. Now, you're looking at the scene right now. We are actually looking at the north end of one of the buildings, which does, in fact, look like where it is that the plane hit. Eyewitnesses would say it was a twin-engine plane, possibly a 737. And now this is actually, you're looking at the north end of the World Trade Center, looking south at it. Live from Midtown Manhattan. Now, the fact of the matter is that actually Manhattan is in the middle of a major approach pattern for LaGuardia Airport, which is, of course, one of New York's 3 major airports. One eyewitness, a CNN actually employee, CNN's building is within easy sight of the World Trade Center, although from a good ways uptown, but says that he actually saw what appeared to be a 737 or some other twin-engine passenger jet crashing into it. Now, the plane is still embedded in the World Trade Center tower, and as you can see, it is still engulfed in flame. Information on that is still coming in, of course, but as you can see, the flames are still going on, and this is, of course, a ways up. World Trade Center is, of course, the tallest 2 buildings in New York City, and among the tallest in the world. This is actually something we haven't heard anything about in an awful long time. Way back in the early days of the Empire State Building, it was hit by a jet in a major accident. And right now we're looking at the situation there, as you can see.
Sean Murtaugh, a CNN vice president, said he saw the plane crash into the tower. He describes the plane as a large commercial plane, and what you see right now are pictures of probably where the plane collided earlier. Those are live pictures that you're looking at right now of the World Trade Center.
And the smoke does continue burning. Obviously, fighting any kind of a fire that high up in the building is a major ordeal for firefighters. And we're looking at it again from the north end, which is apparently where the plane actually impacted the building. If we can infer from the actual gap that we're seeing in it, of course, the World Trade Center itself is a major hub of activity in, well, world trade. There are a number of major international trading as well as financial firms that do business there. It is right in the middle of the New York financial district, and a very busy one. The only good news we can hope for here is the fact that it is still only 8:56 a.m. Eastern Time. It is possible that all of the people who might have been working on those floors had not yet gotten in for work, although, of course, a lot of things do get started pretty early in New York's financial district, and the flames are still burning. As you can see, smoke is still belching out of the upper side of that building. Again, it looks like the plane plowed into the north end of the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Those 2 big buildings you see are actually 1 and 2 World Trade Center. And right now we're still waiting to get more information on it, checking the wires as they came in. But the latest thing we have from an eyewitness, actually from CNN, is that it was apparently a 737 or some other jet that flew into it.
Possibly a twin-engine plane.
Yeah, maybe a 737 or something like that. One witness has reported hearing a big boom when it actually hit. This is someone who lives nearby the towers, reported hearing a large explosion and then seeing debris falling. Of course, there are crowds everywhere. We're getting a slightly better look at it. This one appears to have been taken from a helicopter of the tower, and as you can see, the smoke is pouring out of both sides of the building. And this is a developing story that we're going to keep following this morning. But again, what we have word is, as of this morning, a jet, apparently a commercial jet, has plowed into one of the World Trade Center towers. We're going to have more on this throughout the morning on CNN and on CNN Headline News.
Stay with us.
In the next 15 minutes, a crisis will begin, another will end. Fortunes made and lost. Where do you stand? In the next 15 minutes, there will be victory and defeat. Storms will rise, skies will clear. Where will you be? Now, get the news you need. Headlines, finance, sports, and weather when you need it. In the next 15 minutes, CNN Headline News. Real news, real fast.
Open
Oprah's main man, relationship expert Dr. Phil McGraw is here. Feeling helpless, heartbroken, or just plain fed up? He says stop complaining and start changing, and he'll take your calls tonight, 9 Eastern on Larry King Live.
CNN Headline News, an AOL Time Warner company.
This is where...
Closed captioning provided by Mary Maids. One less thing to worry about.
We have this breaking news to report to you right now. A plane has collided with the World Trade Center building in New York. We have live pictures of that for you. We'll be bringing it to you in any moment. Witnesses say, actually a CNN employee says, Sean Murtaugh, vice president over at CNN, saw the collision. He said the plane looked like a commercial plane, and it was flying very low, and it hit the building at an angle. Again, these are live pictures right now. You're looking at the World Trade Center in New York, where a commercial plane has collided minutes ago, just before 9, with the building there. We have no reports of any injuries. We do not know of any fatalities as well, but we are standing by for the latest.
Now, as you can see, we're looking at it from a different angle here. The smoke is coming out of both sides of the building. Now, this is a building that's 110 stories tall, one of course, the landmark New York World Trade Center towers. And apparently the plane did hit it a little bit before 9 this morning. We do have word from some witnesses who said that there was a huge explosion, and then debris started falling, again, from 100, possibly 110 stories up. And then the smoke does continue to burn. You are looking at the scene live. We're actually looking at it now from the north, south, into New York's financial district, at which the World Trade Center is the heart of the New York financial district. This happened shortly before 9 o'clock, right about when a lot of workers in that building would likely be getting on the job.
Okay, and you'll remember in 1993, this building was actually where a terrorist set off a bomb, remember, in the basement of the World Trade Center, killing 6 people and injuring more than 1,000. That happened in 1993, and now once again we're looking at pictures live of the World Trade Center, where a plane minutes ago, just before 9, collided with the building.
And this is, of course, a building, a complex in which literally tens of thousands of people work. It was a major problem back when that terrorist bombing happened, because it simply affected so many people. And now, once again, we have this accident happening here. Now, as you can see, we're looking about 3/4 of the way up this 110-story building where the smoke is coming out. Sean Murtaugh is a vice president at CNN. He actually saw what happened. We have him on the phone right now. Are you there?
Yes.
Where were you looking, and what did you actually see?
I was looking south towards the World Trade Center and the Statue of Liberty.
Now, to clarify, you're probably talking about from the CNN building, which is about 20 stories up in the middle of town, New York.
Square Garden on the 21st floor, so I had a pretty good vantage point to see the flight approach.
It was coming in from the north?
It was coming from the north, heading south towards the tower, and at a comment from a friend. I see another plane approaching right now. Another plane just crashed in right now.
Another plane has crashed into the World Trade Center building. As we are watching the World Trade Center covering the earlier crash, we have seen that another plane just crashed into the World Trade Center building. As we are watching it, this is unbelievable.
2 planes appear to me now to have done this intentionally.
This looks like an intentional attack by these planes.
The first plane was dipped its wings back and forth as it approached. It looked to be a 737. Couldn't tell if it was a Continental Airlines plane or not, and it looked intentional. Now that the second one has hit, it's making me feel even more.
Sean, we're looking at some disadvantaged angle here. It looks like it actually hit the other tower from this angle.
It hit the other tower. A plane just approached from the south, heading north, and just struck the other tower, and I see flames now coming out of the other tower from my vantage point.
Within minutes, 2 planes have struck 2 buildings of the World Trade Center.
Sean, did this look like the same kind of a plane?
It did look like another commercial jet. I can't tell from this distance what airline it was.
Okay, and we now are starting to see flames coming out of the second World Trade Center tower. This one slightly lower than the first hit, but a possible one. We now have word that the first plane was a commercial passenger jet. It hit between the 80th and 85th floors. The debris we see falling out of the building all the way down onto the street underneath. That's what's coming into us right now. And now we see a second set of fires burning on at least 2 or 3 floors of the second World Trade Center tower from this second plane also hitting the tower.
Within 10 to 15 minutes, 2 planes have collided on 2 separate occasions with the building. We have no reports of injuries or fatalities as of yet, but you'll remember that in 1993, the World Trade Center was the site of a terrorist bomb that was set off in its basement. That killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000. Right now, Sean Murtaugh, who is our vice president of CNN, said what he believes that it was an intentional crash.
Now, Sean, I guess we're looking at, all right, we can now see both of the World Trade Center towers are in flames, and it looks like all across both towers we do see that the building is fully involved and the smoke does continue to come out. Now, Sean, it looks like a crystal clear day in New York. It isn't as if anybody could possibly have done this by accident, certainly not twice in a row.
No, I think the fact that the second plane, I was watching, when the first plane hit, a person I was watching with had indicated he thought like that guy could have missed that, like it was intentional. Now that the second plane has hit, it makes me feel even more like the 2 of them are planned attacks.
Did it look like, when you saw that explosion the second time, was it something similar to that the first time? We really saw a huge burst of flames.
Identical. It appears to have hit the building somewhat lower, and I can't tell from this vantage point whether debris has come out the other side, but it appears that both are embedded in the buildings.
Yeah, we're actually looking, and we can see that the fire, at least, does go all the way through both towers. We did hear from some witnesses who were closer to the scene who heard a huge explosion and then did see the debris falling, and there are crowds, of course, everywhere on the street. One thing to keep in mind is that even if not everybody was in, it looks like we've lost a signal from that particular camera, but even if not everybody was in the office at the time, because it did happen shortly before 9 o'clock, the second one happening just shortly after 9 o'clock, that there's a good chance there were a lot of people on the street or in a very large plaza down underneath the World Trade Center towers, which are usually full of commuters going to and from work, especially right about the time that this happened.
Yeah, that's true. And one thing to also consider is a lot of people show up for work early to prepare for what's lying in the days ahead. We can only hope that people were not in those floors. It looks like in each building, at least 10 to 15 floors have been affected by the crash. Again, we're looking at live pictures of the 2 World Trade Center buildings.
And we understand you see the fire is spreading in the second of the World Trade Center towers as the smoke continues to pour out from the fire that has basically gone from one end to another of several floors on the first of the towers. Of course, these are the World Trade Center towers, 110 stories tall, the tallest buildings in New York, and for a while, the tallest buildings in the world. A major part of New York City's financial center down in the financial district of New York. World Trade Center is actually a complex of several buildings, and these are, of course, the 2 best known of them. But as you can see, there is debris falling from both buildings right now, and the flames are now pouring out of the second tower to be hit by this second plane, which some eyewitnesses say looks, and it's pretty hard to contest this at this point, like it hit intentionally.
Again, if you're just tuning in, what has happened is within minutes before, sometime before 9 and right after 9, 2 planes separately collided with the buildings at the World Trade Center, both buildings, one at before 9 and one after 9. We have Sean Murtaugh, our vice president at CNN headquarters, standing by. Sean, what can you tell us?
Approximately 5 or 6 minutes ago, I don't know if you picked it up on camera, a second plane struck the other tower a little bit further. We did see it live. A little bit further down on the second tower than the first plane that struck. And I see flames and smoke and see the same images that you're seeing on the monitor.
Now, Sean, let's back up a minute and go to what you were talking, because obviously you weren't looking as closely at that. You were talking to us at the time, but what did you see happen when this first plane came in?
I saw the plane heading over Manhattan in a flight pattern that's not typical for planes coming out of Kennedy, etc., to be heading this close to the city, and saw the plane wingtip tip back and forth, and it appeared the pilot was trying to straighten himself out, and a gentleman I was looking out the window with said, that guy looks kind of low, and saw the plane impact, roughly almost straight into the building.
From your vantage point, could you see the firefighters there? Are they on the scene yet? Have they managed to get there?
I don't have a clear line of sight to the base of the building, but I can hear the city lighting up with alarms and whatnot.
And now we're hearing a word of some debris even falling as far away as Brooklyn, which actually is across part of New York Harbor, 3 miles away from the tower. This should give you an idea of how big this is. Paper has been falling over Brooklyn, possibly debris from the fire. Now, Sean, when you're looking at this, could you really just see anything in the way of insignia on the plane indicating an airline, a cargo company?
Not on the second plane. The first plane I thought was a Continental Airlines jet. It looked to be a 737, but I can't be sure. The second plane, I was too far, and the angle of approach was from the southern tip of Manhattan, and I could not see if that had a airline brand on the tail.
Okay, Sean, we were looking live when this second plane actually hit into one of the towers. It happened as we were talking to you, and we actually saw it live. Let's take a look because, okay, we're now looking at local news coverage of that, but we actually saw it happen. Watch what happened. There we see a second jet. It was clearly a twin-engine jet hit the tower. This is what happened about 18 minutes after the first plane hit it, and a huge explosion erupted on the side of the building as the second jet hit it. And as you could see, it was a pretty sizable jet, a twin-engine jet plane that plowed into the side of the second of the World Trade Center towers. This was about 5 minutes after 9 o'clock when we were already looking at the scene from what happened after the first jet hit the tower. Now, Sean, we actually did get a look at that. You thought this looked like a Continental jet, and we saw the second one did seem to have that distinctive gray paint job, didn't it?
I watched the image on the screen, but could not make out the.
But the first one, it seemed to be a dark painted plane, rather like a Continental jet.
Yeah, that was my first guess that it was a Continental jet, the first one.
Now, there was no sign that this fellow was trying to avoid it, obviously.
And in fact, you know, you have a gut feeling that as you're watching the first one and the way the pilot corrected or had the ability to still manipulate the wings, that he seemed like he could have avoided it, and now that the fact that the second one has happened makes me feel even more like both were intentional.
Yeah, looking like another intentional strike against the World Trade Center. Of course, it was in 1993 that we had that bombing underneath when a group of terrorists apparently were trying to topple one tower into the other and set off a big truck bomb in a parking garage beneath one of the towers. And caused dozens of injuries. And,
thousands of others were injured, 6 people killed.
Yeah, 6 people were killed in that. And this actually is a familiar story to New Yorkers after a B-25 plane actually hit the Empire State Building, but that happened in dense fog, and we're looking at a bright, sunny day today. Not exactly the kind of conditions under which anyone could have accidentally hit a big structure. We have word already that the FBI is investigating reports of a plane hijacking before the crashes. This could conceivably explain how such a large commercial jet could end up flying into one of the towers. One of the things about flying around in New York is that it is a very busy air traffic area, and the possibility of so large a jet being able to take off from anywhere in the area and crash into one of those planes is kind of hard to imagine unless we had a scenario such as that. So we are now hearing that the FBI is looking into reports of a jet being hijacked in the New York City area. It may well be that we know where that jet or 2 jets went.
Okay, we'll have more on this breaking story as soon as we come back from this break. Stay with Headline News. Charlie.
There. It's not.
Hello?
Following a breaking story out of New York, we now have word of 2 planes crashing into the World Trade Center, and this may well have been an act of terrorism. The FBI is now investigating reports that a plane was hijacked there. You have just seen the explosion as a second plane hit the second of World Trade Center towers. Both of the two major towers are now fully in flames. President Bush is in Sarasota, Florida. He has been alerted to this, and the FBI is now investigating reports of a plane hijacking in the New York area. It is starting to look possible that a plane, or maybe two, were hijacked and crashed into both of the biggest of the World Trade Center towers.
That's right. Minutes before 9 was the first crash, and we had a CNN vice president who was standing by live who actually saw the plane going into the first building. And minutes after that, just a few minutes after 9, while we were covering this breaking news for you live, a second plane collided with the second building in the World Trade Center. Now, you'll remember the World Trade Center in 1993 was the center of a terrorist bomb attack when a bomb went off in a basement, killing 6 people, injuring 1,000 others. And it looks like it is the target of maybe another terrorist attack. We've heard that the FBI is investigating reports that the FBI is investigating reports that plane was hijacked earlier. A commercial flight was hijacked, and that could possibly explain how these two collisions have happened within minutes of each other.
CNN's headquarters in Midtown Manhattan are 20 stories up and actually looks straight down on New York's financial center, and CNN Vice President Sean Murtaugh was sitting looking out his window when it happened. Sean, what did you actually see happening?
The first or second plane?
Let's start with the first one, because you were looking right at it when it first occurred.
The first plane was crossing over the middle of Manhattan in an altitude that was obviously too low. And I was gazing out the window with a colleague who commented, you know, that guy looks like he's going kind of low. We both gazed out the window and saw the pilot, you know, wingtip go back and forth like he was trying to straighten the plane. And then we saw the impact into the first tower.
Now, one thing that might bear noting is that actually the Hudson River, which is to the right there, is an area where we do see a lot of planes flying low. It is an area where visual reckoning flying is allowed, but obviously something like this is certainly not expected, but also...
Investing is about the long term.
Okay, we are back with live pictures. We apologize for that earlier break to a commercial. You are looking at live pictures of the World Trade Center where minutes ago 2 planes on separate occasions collided with the building.
We have word that President Bush has been alerted. He is in Florida. He was supposed to go to an education-related event in Sarasota this morning. That event has been canceled. We could very well have a terrorist attack here. The FBI is reportedly investigating an airplane hijacking in the New York area. We're going to go to continuing coverage of this breaking story and the rest of the day's news with Robin Meade on CNN and on CNN Headline News. We'll be right back with continuing coverage right after a short break. Following a breaking story, apparent and a possible terrorist attack against the World Trade Center, this time by 2 planes that appeared to have been deliberately crashed into 2 of the World Trade Center tower. Let's go live to President Bush, who is preparing to speak right now.
Got Bush. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
You've been seeing some very brief remarks by President Bush about what is apparently a terrorist attack against the World Trade Center. Right now, you're looking live at the scene right now where you can see fires burning fiercely in both of the 110-story main towers of the World Trade Center, World Trade Center 1 and number 2 World Trade Center World Trade Center 1 and 2. The president quoted his father saying that terrorism will not stand. Of course, something that George Bush Sr. said about the attack on Kuwait by Iraq. But now we are looking at word from the FBI that this may indeed have been a terrorist attack. They're looking into reports of planes being hijacked. One of the planes may, in fact, have been an American Airlines 767 that left Boston this morning. But the CIA is now looking at the FBI rather is now looking into reports that these were terrorist attacks and that these planes were hijacked and then deliberately crashed into the World Trade Center, although those reports are not official, and the official cause of these two crashes into the World Trade Center has not yet officially been announced, but very clearly something very serious. We have words out of, apparently some witnesses talked to people who were up in the World Trade Center at the time and heard screams and shouts to the effect of, "We are dying up here," when the crash and the subsequent fires broke out. Again, this is at the heart of New York's financial district, 1 and 2 World Trade Center. President Bush spoke very briefly moments ago, promising to find whoever was responsible and saying that there will be a full investigation. And again, the FBI is saying that this may well have been the case of planes being hijacked and deliberately crashed into the World Trade Center. We will continue coverage of this breaking story on CNN and CNN Headline News. Be sure to stay with us. We're looking live at the scene of the World Trade Center where fire continues to burn out of control in 2 towers of the World Trade Center. We have word that the Pentagon has placed military forces around the world on ThreatCon Alpha. That means that there is a threat of possible terrorist activity against installation, buildings, or personnel, the nature of which is unpredictable. We do have word also of a fire at the Pentagon in Washington that is just coming in. We are not sure if that is related to this at all. But here is the latest that we have. We do have words, yes, that there is a large fire burning at the Pentagon in Washington. Now, President Bush has already said that these twin air crashes at the World Trade Center are the result of a terrorist act. And as we have seen throughout the course this morning, 2 planes hit shortly before and after 9 o'clock. They were large jets. One of them was apparently an American Airlines 767 that was supposed to be flying from Boston to California and instead was detoured. Now, the FBI does have reports of planes being hijacked. President Bush is calling this a terrorist act. Let's listen in now to statements coming from Senator Edward Kennedy and the First Lady Laura Bush.
Benefited greatly from her comments, and we will look forward to an early reappearance by the First Lady for this committee on the subject of early education. And Mrs. Bush, we recognize now.
You heard from the President this morning, and Senator Kennedy and Senator Gregg and I both join his statement in saying that our hearts and our prayers go out to the victims of this act of terrorism, and that our support goes to the rescue workers, and all of our prayers are with everyone there right now. Thank you all.
You know, children are kind of struck by all this. Is there a message you could
Okay, you've been listening to comments from Senator Edward Kennedy and First Lady Laura Bush in response to what they are also referring to as a terrorist attack, and it certainly apparently is, because we now have word that the Palestinian group, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, is claiming responsibility for these crashes. 2 jets hit the 2 biggest towers of the World Trade Center shortly before and after 9 o'clock this morning. The FBI says one of them had been hijacked, apparently an American Airlines jet en route from Boston to California. President Bush has convened a National Security Council meeting as soon as he gets back to Washington. Of course, the president had been in Sarasota for some events centered around his education initiative. Those have been canceled. He very briefly spoke to school children there to say that his prayers are with the victims of this terrorist act, and he said that this act and this terrorism would not stand. We have word that the New York Mercantile Exchange, which is immediately below the World Trade Center towers, has been evacuated. That is, of course, the biggest single-floor trading facility in the world. The New York Stock Exchange, meanwhile, is on hold. It was supposed to open for trading at 9:30 this morning. That is indefinitely on hold. Meanwhile, we do have word that the Pentagon is on fire. There's a fire burning on the Pentagon right now as we have possible threats going on. Yes, we do have word that the White House is being evacuated right now as well. So we have a fire at the Pentagon as well as evacuations going on at the White House in response to at least one, what looks like one significant terrorist event. Again, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine has claimed responsibility for this one. And we now have word that the fire at the Pentagon is the result of a plane crash. We're looking over the old executive office building at a fire burning in the Pentagon, which is just over the horizon there in the distance. But we can now see heavy smoke coming up. This apparently is also the result of another plane crashing into another building. The Pentagon, of course, the center of the U.S. Defense Department. And we're looking at live pictures actually coming in from affiliate WTTG. This is the scene in Washington, D.C. Now, you're looking over the what looks like the old executive office building, but that is not on fire. What we are seeing is the Pentagon is burning. That from our affiliate in Washington, WTTG. Now, back to New York, as you can see, the fire burning at the World Trade Center. The latest word we have is, again, the Pentagon has been hit by a plane. That is what we're looking at right now, and that is burning, a major fire burning, and fire burning in the World Trade Center. The New York Mercantile Exchange has been evacuated. The New York Stock Exchange opening for the day is on indefinite hold. Apparently some people were up in the upper floors of the World Trade Center when it happened. Some people calling it, some of the brokerage houses up there said that they reported hearing screams, and someone said, "We are dying up here." Again, the World Trade Center towers are 110 stories tall, and as you can see, one of those crashes happened very near the top of one of them, another one about halfway up on the second one. President Bush is calling this an act of terrorism. First Lady Laura Bush and Senator Edward Kennedy also said as much in remarks just a couple of minutes ago. The president has convened a meeting of the National Security Council. The president says that there will be a full and complete investigation. He has canceled his agenda and is heading back to Washington shortly. Air traffic into and out of New York has been shut down. All bridges and tunnels in the New York area have been closed as well. But the latest word we have now is that there have been plane crashes, apparently deliberate ones, into two of the big towers of the World Trade Center, number 1 and number 2 World Trade Center, as well as into the Pentagon. And all bridges and tunnels in New York have been evacuated. The White House has also been evacuated in response to another possible threat there. The West Wing of the White House has been evacuated. We now have word that the Capitol has been evacuated as well. So we have evacuations going on the White House, the Capitol, and the Pentagon itself, which is now in flames after another one. Latest word we have is now the Treasury has been evacuated as well. So the evacuations do continue in response to this apparent terrorist act. And the Pentagon says that it has increased its terrorism alert status from normal to threat con alpha. All right, we're now looking again at a different view from Washington, D.C., where you can see smoke pouring up from the Pentagon, where a plane has crashed into the Pentagon. Now, of course, actually, Washington, D.C., besides being one of the most restricted airspaces in the country, is also where we see a major airport closest to a sensitive area. Reagan National Airport in Washington is very close to the mall and to a whole series of major installations there. And we now have word that a plane has apparently crashed into the Pentagon as well. President Bush has convened a meeting of the Security Council. He's planning to get to that immediately upon his return to Washington from Sarasota, Florida, where he has been for special events involving his education initiative. Meanwhile, the word from New York, again, is 2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center. The word we get is at least 1,000 people have been hurt and 6 are dead. It could be a lot higher than that, of course. This crash happened shortly before and after 9 o'clock this morning, when a lot of New Yorkers are heading to work. The good news could be that there would not be as many people in the building at the time as there might have been shortly thereafter. On the other hand, the workday does start early in New York City, especially in the financial district where the World Trade Center is. And there could have been an awful lot of people en route to and from work beneath the towers. Now, the World Trade Center towers, the 2 big towers there, 1 and 2, are 110 stories tall. They are surrounded by a very large plaza, which could easily have been full of people as well, not to mention, of course, the surrounding streets. So the latest word we have is 3 plane crashes, apparently deliberate, into the World Trade Center towers and the Pentagon. A Palestinian group has claimed responsibility for the plane crashes into the World Trade Trade Center. This is a group called the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. This comes out of actually Abu Dhabi television as well as Reuters. The word is that one of those planes may indeed have been hijacked. One of them was apparently a 737 American Airlines flight en route from... All right, we're waiting to hear now. Okay, we have word from airports nationwide. The FAA has shut down all aircraft takeoffs at all airports around the country. This is coming from the FAA. All aircraft takeoffs at airports around the country have now been put on hold by the FAA. This after these 3 plane crashes, including one crash, which was apparently that of an American Airlines 767, which left Boston at 7:45 this morning, supposedly en route for California, apparently ended up crashing into the World Trade Center in New York instead. Witnesses did see the planes go crashing into the buildings, and actually it happened during live coverage here on Headline News. We saw the second of the planes hit the second of the towers in the World Trade Center. President Bush has called off his agenda for the day and is now en route back to Washington, where he has convened a National Security Council meeting. Law enforcement officials now say both planes were planes hijacked from Boston. We'd had word of one of them, now both of them. The FBI is calling this, saying this was a probable terrorist incident. President Bush is calling it an apparent terrorist act, and in very brief remarks this morning, he promised it would stand. He did go to an event that he was supposed to attend this morning in Sarasota, Florida, for his education initiative, and spoke to the school children, but only long enough to say that his prayers were with the people, and he promised a full investigation.
Hey, with all you have going on, who has time to clean? Call Mary Maids. It's one less thing to worry about.
Business.
E-business.
Sir Speedy Printing.
SirSpeedy.com.
Face-to-face.
Online interface.
Personal.
Productive.
Local.
Global.
Very human.
Very modern.
Easy.
Easy.
Sir Speedy.
Either way.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cause you heard the design is I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying, come back and see me. Yesterday, you've forgiven me, but it'll still be today till I say I'm sorry. It's the finest of the flavors. I can see the jokers and the Nova Goers and my goers and the bangers. You'll have to sign a waiver. I have a tendency to live my mind of a sleep. I haven't seen you. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Dropped your ass to the side and said I'm sorry.
CSFB Direct, ranked as the #1 online broker by Barron's and backed by the resources of Credit Suisse First Boston. That's the difference between online trading and direct investing from CSFB Direct.
Greenfield at Large.
Already the smartest, most literate discussion series on TV.
Finally, a program that combines intriguing guests, challenging topics, and intelligent talk.
Intelligence at work.
Jeff Greenfield tosses out the topic, and everyone rolls with the punches.
This is highly promising stuff.
It's the show that's bringing back the art of conversation.
Good stuff, Greenfield.
Greenfield at Large, weeknights 10:30 Eastern, only on CNN.
We're continuing to follow a developing story this morning. A series of plane crashes, apparently deliberate into major buildings, apparently terrorist incidents. You're looking live at the scene in Manhattan, where both of the big towers in the World Trade Center, #1 and #2 World Trade Center, have been hit by planes. The FBI is investigating reports that the planes were hijacked. One plane was apparently one bound from Boston to California. A second plane, American Airlines Flight 77, which was supposed to fly from Dulles to LAX airport, is now reported as missing. Right now, no report as to whether it was the one involved in any of these crashes. But again, we have reports of crashes by aircraft into the Pentagon, as well as 2 of the World Trade Center towers. The White House has also been evacuated in response to what the Secret Service calls a credible threat of terrorism. The Treasury, as well as the State Department, have also been cleared out as well. You're looking live at the scene at the Pentagon right now.
Charles, we've also learned that all air travel
travel has been shut down nationwide now. If you're planning to board a plane, you have a loved one who's about to board a plane, all air travel throughout the United States has been shut down. We understand, though, that planes already in the air will be allowed to proceed to their destinations. So you might want to take that into account as you make your plans this morning. This incident started shortly before 9 o'clock this morning with shocking pictures of the World Trade Center in New York, a plane crashing into the upper floors of the building. As we watched those pictures live on our air and on CNN, another plane crashed into the second tower of the World Trade Center. Truly amazing pictures, and we're understanding that 1,000 people are injured, unknown number of casualties in this incident, and it's being blamed on terrorist incidents. Charles.
Meanwhile, we have one report saying that the Palestinian group, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, has declared responsibility for this act. On the other hand, we have reports from a senior official within the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine denying that the group was involved in this incident. We have reports of at least 6 people killed, thousands hurt after, at least at the World Trade Center, and fire, as you can see, is still burning out of control on numerous floors of the World Trade Center. Meanwhile, all bridges and tunnels in New York City have been closed. The New York Mercantile Exchange, which is basically at the foot of the big World Trade Center towers, has been cleared out. We're now going to take a look live at the scene of the Pentagon, where the fire also continues to burn after an aircraft hit the Pentagon as well. We have word that the State Department, the Treasury, and the West Wing of the White House have also been evacuated in response to what the State Department is calling a credible terrorist threat.
Charles, we should mention that the president is in Sarasota, Florida, preparing to make his way back to Washington. He spoke live to the nation a short while ago. We had that on CNN Headline News, talking about this as a terrorist incident, something that the United States, in his words, will not stand for, and he asked for a moment of silence. He will convene a meeting of the National Security Council shortly. He has spoken to Vice President Cheney. He's spoken to the FBI and Governor George Pataki of New York. You're looking at video now from WJLA. This is fire and flames coming out of the Pentagon.
And now we have word that the plane, or the crash into the Pentagon is also believed to be a terrorist-related incident, not something that at this point comes as a big surprise, but we are now hearing that officially from a senior official within the administration, that this one as well is believed to be a terrorist attack against the Pentagon as well. Again, we have the evacuations throughout Washington, D.C., and all air traffic nationwide has been put on hold. Flights in progress will be allowed to continue and land, but the FAA has stopped all flight takeoffs at airports around the United States.
We should mention again that we've learned just in the last few minutes that American Airlines Flight 77 from Dulles to LAX is reported missing, presumed to be involved in one of these incidents. A flight from Boston to California, another American Airlines flight, presumably involved in one of the crashes this morning into the World Trade Center towers. We're going to be staying with the story throughout the day on Headline News. We invite you to stay with us. We will bring you the very latest as it becomes available. Stay with Headline News.